Hey guys, what's up? My name is Chaotic and welcome back to another Grand Theft Auto 5 video here on my channel. Now in today's video, I'm going to be discussing all of the weaponized helicopters in GTA Online. We now have 6 of them and determining which one is the best that you can buy and own in game. So we have the FH1 Hunter, of course added fairly recently with the Smuggler's Run updates. We have the Havoc as well, also added with the Smuggler's Run updates. The Savage added back in 2015 with the Heist updates. The Valkyrie also added with the Heist updates. Then the Buzzard and the Annihilator, which of course are both original helicopters included in the base game when it was first released back in 2013. So we have 6 helicopters then in-game which are weaponized, but which one of these is the best to buy and own in-game? So let's get straight into things and start things off by discussing each helicopter's price. So the Annihilator then costs $1,825,000 and is available to purchase for all players from the Elitist Travel website. The Buzzard is a little cheaper from the Warstock Cash and Carry website at a price of $1,750,000. The Valkyrie Buy It Now price is $2,593,500. There is a cheaper trade price, which is $1,950,000, which can be unlocked when you complete the Pacific Standard Convoy. Then the Savage is $3,790,500 with a trade price of just $2,850,000, unlocked after completing the Humane Labs raid heist. As for the Havoc, its Buy It Now price is $2,300,000 with a trade price of $1,730,000, unlocked after completing 12 Smuggler's Run steal missions. And finally, as for the Hunter, the most expensive helicopter in-game with a Buy It Now price of $4,123,000 and the trade price of $3,100,000, unlocked after completing 42 Smuggler's Run steal missions. Anyway, but moving on next to speed. Now we have the Annihilator first of all, which unfortunately is the slowest attack helicopter in-game with a top speed of just 105 miles an hour. In fact, most regular cars in-game, sedans, hatchbacks and stuff like that, are faster than this on the road, so its top speed is certainly very disappointing. But moving on to the Buzzard next, this being one of the faster attack helicopters we have in-game, achieving a top speed of around about 140 to 143 miles an hour. Now one thing worth noting with this helicopter, as you fly forward, it very slowly begins to go down and down and down. It's only minimal, only a few meters, but because of this, it does get a slight speed advantage. As it goes further down, it picks up speed. Then moving on next to the Valkyrie. Now just like the Buzzard, it also descends over distance, so as you travel forward, it will also go down very slightly. It's a lot more though than the Buzzard, so over distance you'll notice quite a few meters of drop, but nevertheless because of this, because you're going downwards, it also increases its top speed overall, and you'll notice it achieves speeds of around about 147 miles an hour. So it is a little faster than the Buzzard because of this, but do bear in mind every now and again you'll have to slow down to increase your height to stop you from crashing into things, which may affect the overall flight time from one location to another. Then as for the Valkyrie, unfortunately it's one of the slower helicopters in the category with a top speed of 132 miles an hour. But as you can see, as you fly forward, it also increases in height as well, which of course slows down the overall top speed. But there's a small trick you can do to counteract this. Instead of holding down the accelerator constantly, just tap it instead. And by doing that, it stays on a much more level flight height, and as you can see, achieves speeds of 145 instead. Despite being the smallest weaponized helicopter that we have in GTA Online, the Havoc isn't particularly all that fast either. As you can see, its top speed is 144 miles an hour. But then finally, as for the Hunter, now its top speed is 145 miles an hour. But as you can see, as it flies forward, it also flies upwards as well, just like the Savage, but it's a lot worse. So very quickly, you can be at some very high altitudes, and as a result, it has a major effect on its top speed. But if you use the same trick I showed a few moments ago with the Savage on this one, where instead of holding down the accelerator, you just tap it instead, so it stays at a much more level flight height, you can achieve speeds over 155 miles an hour. But with some practice, you can actually get over 160 miles an hour out of this thing, making this the fastest attack helicopter that we have in GTA Online. Anyway, moving on though to the next test, this being maneuverability, flying around, and agility, and again we'll start off with the Annihilator. Now because this thing is slow, both top speed and acceleration wise, it's also fairly large as well. As you could expect, it's not really that good when it comes to flying around in tight areas. I'm just flying around the buildings in the main central area. It feels difficult and slow to fly around. As for the Buzzard though, as you might expect, it is much better in this scenario. It is just much easier to fly around because it's smaller, lighter, and quicker, and just feels a lot more agile. And the Valkyrie isn't too bad either, despite being one of the larger attack helicopters we have in-game. Obviously it's not quite up there with the Buzzard, simply because it's bigger and not quite as agile, but it's certainly a lot more maneuverable than things like the Annihilator. Then as for the Savage, now I'm no helicopter pilot, but I found this one a lot more difficult to fly than some of the other ones. Maybe it's because it's much slower and one of the larger helicopters as well that we have in the attack category, but it just feels like it needs a lot more space to move around, and it's a lot less maneuverable than some of the other ones that we have in the helicopter category. Moving on though next to the Havoc, and as to be expected, with it being the smallest weaponized helicopter that we have in game, it is by far the most maneuverable. Just in this scenario alone, flying in amongst the buildings in the main central area, it is certainly by far the best one to use because it's so small. It's also quick as well, and it's able to hold the speed through some of the corners where some of the helicopters have to slow right down just to get around the buildings. But finally, the Hunter, and despite being the biggest attack helicopter that we have in-game, it's not too bad either in this scenario. Flying in amongst the buildings, it does it pretty effortlessly. Sure, it's not quite as good as the Havoc and the Buzzard, simply because those are much smaller helicopters, but because it's fast and it's agile, it's very maneuverable. But moving on, most importantly, to the weapons of each helicopter and their additional features, we'll of course start off with the Annihilator once again. And surprisingly, the weapons on this thing are extremely powerful. The Annihilator only has a minigun option, but as you can see, it fires 4 miniguns at a time, and these are extremely powerful. As you guys can see, just shooting a truck, it takes a second to tip it over and blow it up, which as you'll see in a few moments means this helicopter has one of the most powerful machine gun options. But not just that, you can of course also have passengers sit on either side of the helicopter, and they can use most of their weapons as well, including assault rifles and LMGs. Then as for the Buzzard, from standard it comes with machine guns and a missile launcher. The machine guns aren't quite as powerful as the Annihilator. It only has 2 miniguns, one either side, whereas of course the Annihilator has 2 either side. And surprisingly, there is a pretty big difference between the two when trying to blow up the same truck. So as you can see, in the same amount of time, it's able to tip the truck over, but it takes an extra second or two to actually blow it up. So the Annihilator is much more powerful when it comes to the minigun feature. But the Buzzard has the missile launching feature, which fires pretty standard missiles, but as you can see, you can only fire 2 missiles at a time. There's then a few seconds delay before you can fire another 2. Now despite being weaponized, the Valkyrie doesn't actually offer any weapons to the pilot, so the person flying can only fly. If you want to use any of the weapons on this, you have to be one of the passengers. But it has 2 very powerful miniguns both sides, and the one on the left hand side has explosive rounds as well, the one which I'm firing right now, which can blow up vehicles and other helicopters and planes with just 1 or 2 shots. Then as for the Savage, just like the Buzzard, it has the minigun cannon option as well as the option to fire missiles as well, but the Savage is 10 times better in the weapons department. Its cannon has explosive rounds, so it takes just 1 or 2 shots to any vehicle to blow it up, and it comes with all of these things from standard. They aren't upgrades or customizations or anything like that. So the cannon on this is extremely overpowered, but of course it also has the option as well to fire missiles. And whereas on the Buzzard, you could only fire 2 missiles at a time, you then have to wait a few seconds to fire another 2. On this, you can just keep on firing over and over and over again, continuously. There's no wait, there's no limit, there's no cooldown timer or anything like that. Then as for the Havoc, now this thing from standard isn't even weaponized. You have to buy the weaponized feature, the minigun, when upgrading it, which costs $100,000. And personally, it is a complete waste of money. It is completely pointless even fitting this minigun to this helicopter, because the minigun upgrade is terrible. It is extremely underpowered, and as you guys can see, shooting at the Pounder, the same truck, the same vehicle we used on some of the past helicopters, it takes over 10 seconds to blow it up. And it's so underpowered, it doesn't even tip it over like some of the other ones. But finally, as for the Hunter, this helicopter is definitely the most equipped once fully upgraded. Now from standard it comes with the missile launching feature where you can fire both homing and barrage missiles. Now the homing missiles, just like on the Savage, are continuous. You can fire them over and over and over again with no cooldown or limits. But then as for the barrage, these things are extremely powerful. You can fire up to 8 missiles at a time, which as I'm sure you guys will agree is just an awesome feature. There is a 2 or 3 second delay though between each barrage that you fire, so do bear that in mind. But if you want to, you can fire just 2 or 3 missiles in that barrage rather than the full 8 if you want to. And to do that, rather than hold down the attack button the full length of time, just let go during it and you'll fire just 2 or 3 missiles rather than the full 8. Now once upgraded, you can also fit the bomb dropping feature on this one as well. It is the only helicopter in game where this is a feature, so if you want to, you can have the option of dropping gas or cluster bombs. And from standard it also comes with a minigun which is operational by the co-pilot, but there's the option to upgrade this in your hangar and fit explosive rounds to this cannon, which just like on the Savage are extremely powerful. But finally, moving on to the last test, this being explosive resistance. And again, up first we have the Annihilator, which unfortunately doesn't take any shots from the RPG or the homing launcher. Just one shot from either of those will take it down straight away. This thing is not armored whatsoever, and there's no way of upgrading it to give it any armor, so unfortunately just one explosive shot will blow it up. The Buzzard is very much the same, unfortunately. It is neither bulletproof or explosive resistant. Just one shot from the RPG or a homing launcher will also take it out. And once again, unfortunately, the Valkyrie is very much the same as the previous two. Just one shot from an RPG or a homing launcher will blow it up. Now, when the Savage was first released with the Heist update, it was also very much the same, just one shot would blow it up. But with the release of the Smuggler's Run update, Rockstar actually improved this and allowed it to take at least one shot from an RPG, with a second then blowing it up. So it will take at least one shot from an RPG or a homing missile before blown up. As for the Havoc, well, it's not really worth wasting any time on, just one shot will take this out. But finally, as for the Hunter, this can take 2 shots from an RPG or a homing launcher, with a third required to blow it up. The first shot will make the helicopter smoke a little, the second will then set it on fire, with a third required to then blow it up. So the Hunter wins this test as well. But there we go. So those then are the 6 weaponized helicopters we have in GTA Online. Although I'm sure it's pretty clear which one is the winner out of all of these. There are 2 that really stand out, those being the Savage and the Hunter, and I'm sure those results are pretty clear. Now prior to this, I think it's safe to say the Savage would have been the best and most favorited helicopter out of all of these, but with the release of the Hunter, I think it's safe to say the Hunter is now on top of all of these. It is the fastest weaponized helicopter we have in game. It has the most weapon options, with the barrage feature, an explosive cannon, and the option to drop bombs as well. It might be more expensive than most of the other ones in game, but if you unlock that trade price, you can save over $1 million and it will cost you just over $3 million in total. And it's the Hunter. It is a cool looking helicopter and one which we've all wanted to see in the game since it was first teased in some of the original GTA 5 trailers. So there we go then guys, the best helicopter is the Hunter in GTA Online. I want to get your thoughts and feelings though on all of this. Which one do you guys think? Do you agree with me and say it's the Hunter? Or do you think there's another one in game which you think deserves some more recognition, which I haven't mentioned in this video? So go ahead and leave a comment right now, let me know your thoughts and feelings. If you guys could drop a like though, it would of course be greatly appreciated and it helps me out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do, because I upload all the latest and the greatest Grand Theft Auto 5 content. So as always guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.